All right, so looking at our note sheet from our last class, guys, this is what we were doing. We started off with the rise over run. Remember, you want to pick a point going from left to right. So like if I was going to do problem number 8, okay, just a little review here. I'm going to go from this point to this point, and you want to act like you're driving a city block, okay? If I go from one point to the next, I have to drive down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have to drive down 4. Then I have to drive over, or my run is 1, 2. And so when we find our slope, it's the green over the pink, or it's -4 over 2, which we're going to have to simplify. So our slope, our rise is -4, our run is 2. And so -4 over 2 is -2 over 1, which you could leave like that, or probably just want to simplify that to -2. Okay. So that's what we did in our last class. And then that second part is when we were finding slope given 2 points, as we just did on the board. So we want to subtract the y's on top. So I would do -7 minus, and then put in parentheses this guy. So minus -19. Then on the bottom, I'll do -2 minus 1. So -2 minus, and then that first one. All right, so this, I'm gonna finish this in a second, but I know some of you guys are writing. This is just a little review. And so now from here, you know, minus and negative is like plus, so you guys could use your calculators on that. But if we had -7 minus -19 is like -7 plus 19, which would be 12. And -2 minus 1 is -3. And so when you reduce that, 12 divided by -3 is -4. Okay, or you could write it as -4 over 1, and that would be perfectly fine. If that kind of helps you when we get to the graphing stuff. All right, so today's lesson is going to be where we're trying to graph things in slope-intercept form. So when you're graphing a line, you need 2 things to graph a line. You need to know where it is, so that would be a point. And then you need to know how slanted it is, that would be the slope. You need a point and you need the slope. Well, your equation, when it's written this way in y equals mx plus b form, that means that the number in front of x is your slope. So for example, in problem number 1, our slope is 2. Okay, because it's the number in front of x. Not 2x, just 2. Okay, that's going to be our slope. And then the y-intercept is the number on the end. So in this case is -3. So when you graph this, the y-intercept, this is where you put your first dot, okay? On your graph, you put your first dot at the y-intercept, and then from that dot, you do your slope, which remember is the rise over the run. So for example, I'm going to put my first dot at -3. So -3 on the y-axis. So that goes, the y-axis goes up and down. So there is our y-intercept. Okay, again, that came from right here. It's always going to be the first dot. And then from that dot, we do the slope, the rise over the run. So from that dot, I'm going to go up 2 and over 1 and put another dot there. And then from there, I'll go up 2 and over 1. And usually 3 or 4 dots is plenty. You really only need 2, right? 2 points to determine a line. But I'm going to draw my line through there, and that is our graph. Go. There's our line. All right, so to do problem 2, I'm going to do my slope is always the number in front of x, which is -3. That's our m, or slope. And our y-intercept is the number on the end, so that's going to be 2. So remember, the b value or the y-intercept is where you start on the y-axis. So put a dot at +2 on the y-axis. And now from that, we're going to do our rise over run. So remember, -3 is like -3 over 1. So I'm going to go down 3 and over 1 for my next point. Remember, you go up and down first. So for the next one, I go down 3 and over 1. All right, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to have you guys do the next one. So which one do you want me to do, 3 or 4? 3. All right, I'll do 3. So we have a slope of 1/2. That's the number in front of x. And we have a y-intercept of -5, because that is the number on the end. So I start by putting a dot at -5. And then from that dot, I do my slope. I go up 1, because remember, that's rise over run. Up 1 and over 2. And then up 1 and over 2. And so that line would look like that. All right, will you guys take about 30 seconds to try problem 4, please? All right, so for that problem, I'm gonna list my slope is -2/3. My y-intercept is 4. So I'm gonna start at the y-intercept and put a dot at 4. And then from there, I'm going to do my slope. Now remember, I'm going down 2 and over 3. So our line should look something like that. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, because the next section, we're doing the same thing, but just going the other way. Now we're given the graph, and now we want to find the slope and the y-intercept, so then we can write the equation. So I'm going to start with problem number 2, actually. I'm going to skip number 1 and start with number 2. So I first look to see, well, what is the y-intercept, the b value? Because that's typically the easiest to find. That's where it hits the y-axis, okay? So this hits the y-axis at 1, so our b value is 1. Then I have to figure out the slope. So this is kind of like the delta math thing, where you pick 2, exact corners that it might go through, from like maybe here to here. And I calculate the slope. It goes down 3 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that means I'm going to have a slope of negative 3 over 5. All right, before I write the equation, does anybody have any questions how I got those two numbers? Because that's the hard part. Writing the equation is not so bad if you get those right numbers. Questions on that? Okay, so then when you write your equation, it's always y equals whatever your slope is. So it's going to be negative 3/5, then x. So it's your slope, then x, and then your y-intercept, so plus 1. So our equation is y equals negative 3/5 x plus 1. All right, let's do problem 4. And then I'm going to have you guys do maybe number 3 on your own. We'll check it, okay? So to do problem 4, first, I always like to find the y-intercept first. I just think it's easiest. So our y-intercept is 4, again, ironically. So our y-intercept is 4. Find our slope. Let's see, I got to pick exact corners. This one doesn't have many. Now it looks like it goes exactly through here, and then maybe all the way up to here. So my rise is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is my rise. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a slope of 7 over 4. So that means then my equation is going to be y equals 7 over 4x, because it's the slope, then x, and then the y-intercept, so plus 4. All right, how about if you guys try problem 3 there, okay? Give number 3 a try, and then we will go over that together in just a second. All right, for problem number 3, my y-intercept is going to be negative 4. Our slope, I'm going to look for exact corners. It looks like here's 1 and here is 1. So for my slope, I go down 2 and over 1, 2, 3. And so I have a slope of negative 2 over 3. So our equation is y equals negative 2/3 x minus 4, or plus negative 4, either way. All right, any questions on that? Yes.